Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Adventure on the Can Do podcast. I'm your host, Jothy Rosenberg, aka the Incorrigible Entrepreneur. A professor turned entrepreneur and founder of 9 startup companies. On this show, I talk with business leaders and personal achievers. Adventures on the Can Do explores the challenges and rewards of entrepreneurship, overcoming adversity, and where grit and perseverance can get you. Be inspired by others and push yourself along your path to success and fulfillment. My forthcoming book, Think Like a Startup Founder, based on my experiences, both good and bad, seeks to help early-stage startup founders avoid the oh-so-many pitfalls founders can experience along the way. Adventures on the Can Do adds to that the stories of many other founders, each with an amazing story and set of lessons learned that will be valuable to listeners. Before we jump into today's episode, just a reminder of how you can support this podcast. You can go to my website, jothyrosenberg.com, and sign up for my newsletter, and there you can see other episodes of this podcast. Also, please follow and rate us at podchaser.com, Adventures on the Can Do. And with that behind us, let me introduce today's guest, James Oliverio. James started his career at the investment banking firm Donaldson, Lufkin & Jenrette, where he worked his way up from an entry-level IT position to becoming the managing director and division CIO, and spent 14 years there. After Credit Suisse acquired DLJ, he departed with 90 investment bankers, led by Ken Moelis, and joined UBS to head up their IT division for the investment banking department. Following his stint at UBS, a former boss from DLJ encouraged him to start a company, which he did, an IT managed services company that catered to financial services, healthcare, and other verticals across the United States. He sold that practice in 2015. After selling that company, he attended a program offered by Harvard University where he obtained a certification in information risk management and cybersecurity. The program profoundly impacted him, and he has incorporated many of its concepts into his current MSSP practice at IdeaBox. These include the concept of ROM, which is return on mitigation, explaining your cybersecurity ROI, creating a culture of cybersecurity awareness in firms, and reorganizing IT functions to separate the responsibilities of operating information technology and managing cybersecurity roles. And here is James. Hi, James.
How are you?
I am good. And how are you?
Pretty good.
Okay. Hey, first thing, tell us where you originally are from and where you live now.
Actually, not too far where, literally half a mile where I was born. I actually was fortunate enough to live in the same community and in town, Westchester County, up here in Eastchester, Bronxville area. My entire life. My kids also actually went to my elementary school and high school. So it's generational. So it's kind of interesting. We've stayed here.
Did any of those teachers, were they around long enough that they remember you and they tell your kids about what you did?
Actually, yes. I was a school board member for about 11 years at my district, where I went to elementary, middle school, and high school. And my kindergarten teacher was still there. And when my daughter was matriculating through the school, my wife thought it was a little weird because she got selected by my former teacher. So she had it switched. She thought it was kind of strange that she would have the same kindergarten teacher. So that she actually changed it. But yeah, a few of them were still around at the time. Yeah.
Wow. That's not that common. I haven't talked to anybody that was, lives in the same community where they were born and grew up. That's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about what your company is that you and founded, and what market it's operating in.
Yeah, IdeaBox was a shell company. The name IdeaBox itself was something I purchased 20-something years ago, and I used it through my journey entrepreneurship, where My former business was the managed services practice, which started with that entity IdeaBox and then it got renamed. But today the company, its primary goal is to align itself on the security side. So my former company and my background is really about uptime. When I think about my career, both on Wall Street and the private sector, keeping computer systems operational so people can function was my knitting, right? And I got really intrigued a bunch of years ago saying, I'm really good at keeping this stuff up, but why is, I wanted to go out and seek, why are these firms and companies being breached? Why is this happening on an exponential rate? We have all this great technology and process. And I wanted to focus on the security only lane. And I went on a journey and a quest. How do we make it a safer world and an environment for companies to conduct business away from malicious employees? And that's our focus today, which is creating that ability to show companies that you can approach cyber in a way, which we believe is quantifying it. And a concept we developed, I have a program I spent at Harvard on risk management called ROM, Return on Mitigation, which is explaining cyber in a way that owners understand, the quantification piece of it.
So when you had this journey from, you were on Wall Street for a long time, and then you went to a big bank, UBS, and then when it was sort of a bunch of you decided to depart, that was when one of your colleagues really encouraged you to start that managed service provider.
Yeah, it wasn't managed services back then. It means I had a really good career working for a company, a great firm called Donaldson, Lufkin, and Jenrette. It was DLJ. And it was purchased by Credit Suisse. And during that time, was really learning. A lot of the bankers left, splintered off, and a bunch went to UBS. And I decided to go over with them and start up the process and the IT at that bank. And my winning formula didn't translate well over at UBS. Was very structured, different environment, where I think DLJ was more entrepreneurship, where they empowered you, they gave you direction, said, listen, go figure it out, right? It was a different environment. So one of my former bosses said, listen, it didn't work out at UBS. Just don't go to another bank. I know you're interviewing another investment bank. Go start something. You could figure it out. And there I am going, I never started a business before, but I kind of ran IT inside of a business. So here I've been whacking in the weeds, 2000, 2003 timeframe, almost 21 years ago. And a lot of those bankers that left, went to UBS and then decided to leave UBS, started their firms. They became my clients. They heard that I was out there, right? So I was not known as a managed services company. It was a technology company, a VAR, right? And we evolved into help desk and building out the solutions. And that journey was another, 13, 14 years until, when I sold that. I exited it in 2015 timeframe. So it was a great experience with your own P&L. But it was, like anything else, it's a challenge, right? And I said, what's my next chapter? I said, saw this little ad on the thing, take this risk management course at Harvard. I did it in 2015. I think it was 2019 timeframe. They go, let's see if they can teach an old dog like me new tricks. And I went, wow, why are companies being breached? We really peeled it back. And I went, we've got this wrong. We need fundamentally the separation of duties. You can't be the CIO and the security officer. They can't be one. And two, is everybody's approaching it just by throwing stuff up on the wall without really quantifying, rubricing out what's my real risk, right? You've got data, you've got egress, you've got all sorts of things, right? Third-party risk. And that's where by doing that, I attracted my current partners at Actifile, where we actually have the ability to look at a client different from client A versus B, which is really what type of data do they create or ingest, and quantify that data down to the bit level. So for example, today, we can show a client almost near-time, real-time basis. Here's the data. It matches PII, PCI, both regulatory and non-regulatory. It could be a company with patents. Here's this data, and they all go, where are you finding this? It's literal across your network. But Mary Sue over here seems to have the greatest risk, and they look at the list of files that we produce. They go, oh my God, they're walking around with all this data, and we can protect it preemptively with no end user involvement. So it's been pretty exciting journey at this point. So I think we're starting to change the conversation, because I've been on this quest to change the conversation at the C-suite, which is, how do you approach cyber? Quantify it. You quantify everything else in the business, right? You have your KPIs for everything, but no one's really thought about, did I ever really think about the data that I create, use, or ingest, where that data might be, and I can preventively protect it from malicious employees and threat actors. So that's what we can do today, which is a pretty exciting journey now.
So a lot of good startups come from somebody who works in an industry for a while and starts to spot the problem, an unsolved need, and then they make the jump. And it's kind of what you did, right? And so, well, yeah, I mean, you saw that stuff wasn't being done in a way you realized that it needed to be, and so you with a little bit of a push from a friend, you go off and you start this, and so how much of a sense did you have as you were creating this latest entity that what you were doing was really unique? I mean, you said, well, no one seems to be doing this, but I mean, how sure are you of that? And are you really, unique in the marketplace?
I think what we're doing is unique, but when I think about my career and the encouragement, I think about my wife and her encouragement. We're married 35 years. Like, go out and do it. Go for it, right? Having that second, having that partner that says, go do it, right? At all costs. I mean, it was tough. Those early days, like, you're sitting there. I mean, literally, I remember those days when I came off of Wall Street. I'm in my office, and I literally had a card table, right? We're out there and strategizing about how we're going to, build this managed service. That was a managed service practice, but an IT business with no customers, right? But then put the word out, and they're like, oh yeah, we need help. And then you evolve, right? And I look at what I did then as opposed to what I do today. And what I really focus today on is I'm just like this evangelist, right? Trying to distill a very complex challenge of how do you approach cyber? And when I say my current partners are out of Israel, called Actifile. And then when they reached out to me and said, we love what we're seeing on LinkedIn and your story about, because I read a lot of documents on risk quantification, and I like to preach the terms of ROM, return on mitigation. And every time I see a job posting, for example, of an organization hiring a chief security officer reporting into the CIO, I'll drop them a note going, you may want to rethink that. Need separation of duties, and here's why you shouldn't really do that, right? And fundamentally, when I learned, Sony, Target, Equifax, they had all the best technology and process. They were organized incorrectly because the same people responsible for uptime, which I'm a big, my background, you can't be fixing a printer and dealing with a problem and focusing on security. You need the separation of it, right? So when I think about, the question of, do we have to be unique? I don't really get crazy about that. How I can simply communicate at the C-suite this whole concept around ROM, and now you can really quantify, which is really exciting. I'm seeing the pull through both in the channel, our channel partners with managed services companies, educating them how you carry the conversation from tech to a business conversation is exciting, right? And I'm going to continue on this journey till I change it where, when I say change it, think about cybersecurity underwriting insurance as an example. When I've approached them several months ago with this concept, they all leaned forward and went, crap, Ollie. They go, Ollie, this is called continuous underwriting. So what you're saying to me is that we've got paper on all these different companies for cyber protection. And we could put your agents out there and show every client different risk profile by the amount of data they ingest and use. I go, yes, you get it. So, for example, that client's going to come back and look at a list of file and go, oh my goodness, that looks like my personal tax return. Correct. We're going to find that data, right? We're going to go into accounting firms and they're going to say, we're secure, but they're not, because those tax attorneys are running around with laptops with people's tax returns in an unsecured format. We find that, right? So it shifts. We're changing that conversation. And when I say purpose, right? When I think about my purpose, creating a safer world, my partners in Actifile and myself, I think we're living up to that. Because when you start deploying this kind of technology and philosophy, you preemptively protect data at rest, at use, and emotion. And it's a paradigm shift. I mean, yes, it's in the category of data loss prevention, but we have flipped all the administrative headache of those types of solutions. And we're excited about that.
So when you first started, was it just you, or did you have some co-founders that you were sitting around this card table talking to?
I had myself, then I attracted an engineer or two that used to work with me at DLJ to join the mission, right? And client by client, and we grew. Then I got, the ability to acquire some small companies with leverage buyout on their balance sheet. And I grew this 50-person company over 11-year period and exited it, right? So yeah, there were a few people that I gave shares and equity into it.
Only a banker would, as a small company, would try to do a leveraged buyout.
Well, they're small, they're micro deals, right? People have these businesses and can't figure out how do I get to the next level? They're stuck in the whirlwind of working in it as opposed to on it. And I did probably 6 or 7 of those transactions over that time period. So I had a mindset, because I was coached well, both by my former DLJ friends, because I lived around that environment quite some time, thinking about on and in the business. And you've got to think about your activities that you're working in it, fine-tuning it, and on it. And the on it was finding those jewels, right? Some of my acquisitions led me to some of my larger clients, like the makers of the Snuggie, the company called All-Star Marketing at the time, that stupid blanket, but they were a huge products company. All Wine Enthusiast, Wine Spectator, Casabella Holdings. These are brands that I didn't cold call on. I acquired the companies that were their providers on the back end, and they became our customers. So I think every business has to have that in their mix.
So now the current company, which you are again calling it IdeaBox, right?
Yes.
I got confused by the naming a little bit there. Okay, so and you're partially a products company, and I kind of want to understand exactly where the Israeli group fits in. But you're partially a products company, but also services. I mean, you're spending a lot of time with these folks, understanding their exact situation, and then trying to figure out what they need and educating them. I assume there's a services component there, an education service.
It's huge service. I mean, IdeaBox, when I started it, it was focusing more on the CISO, the fractional Chief Security Officer services, which we deliver as a service. It led us on the journey and attracted Actifile as a product, a SaaS product that's bolted into our offering. So we do data risk assessments and manage companies and their data risk, along with handling their crisis communications, incident response. We're their fractional CISO, if you think about it. We're boutique. I pivoted about 18 months ago because I saw the pull through that I work for Actifile on the back end in the channel of evangelizing it in the marketplace, how to approach cyber with doing data risk assessments and using the tool and invoking that as one of the key products in our solution. So some would say, is it really a solution sell? Not really. It's a service offering, and coupled in it, it's more the security elements of it. So think of us as fractional CISOs.
And then does the Actifile, is that right?
Actifile is one of the key products for us, yes.
So is that a product that you use while you're performing the service, or is it actually something you're selling to the customer and it's going to sit on premise and be used by them?
It's built into our offering. It's one of the key things that's built into our, or it's baked into our, I would call, to quote somebody, Gary Pica, when you think about the chocolate cake, right? Concept of a bakery, they don't sell by ingredients. So when we're taking on the security lane for a client, we have in our portfolio 24/7 security operations center offering. We have, in that offering, we have cyber awareness training. In that offering, we build out a written information security plan. In that offering, we do assessments of where they currently are. In addition to that assessment is the data protection piece, right? How do we protect it? So we bake it. So we have customers have the full portfolio of it, and others that just have data protection only.
Are you operating sort of mid-market, or are you also working with some really big organizations?
I'm majority mid, but I've taken a couple of swings at some because of my background and connections, some real major enterprise customers. Yeah, we have.
You ought to go back to UBS and Credit Suisse, and
we do have some tests going on. Yes, because
good.
Because they've got data everywhere, they don't know where it's at, and this is finding it.
So, can you tell us about a memorable moment or highlight from your career that has stuck with you?
Yeah, I do have one story that I like to always leverage on, because it was I refer to as like one of the moments you always remember. It's a defining moment. It was back in my days at the LJ, and I was a young buck, a guy rolling around PCs that both handled investment bankers and the capital markets desk. So I managed infrastructure, right? Managed desktop back then. And it was, as the bank was growing, I was encouraged by Vince DeJamois. It's like, Ollie, the way you're going to fit in here, you got to get with the guys. You got to have breakfast. You got to have lunch with them. You got to play golf with them. You got to, because, I hear you, because I went to them with some frustration, because it's high energy. If you think about a support function, you're in a non-revenue position. And when I reflect back then, the advice that Vince gave me was profound, because I was trying to find my fitting, my like how these guys treat you like a second-class citizen. The guys, the women, right? Like your support, you're not one of them, right? So he's telling me what the things I needed to do. So this one particular incident steps out, really was profound, right? I'm getting screamed at by an investment banker from Chicago. Systems aren't working. They can't get deals done. And I'm just taking a beating, right? And I was taught customer service is not a department to which you deliver. So instinctively, hangs up the phone. I said, Anita, book me on the shuttle. I flew out to Chicago. In a matter of an hour or two, walk in the door, and that banker that was beating me up, who are you? I was the guy you're screaming at out in Chicago, from New York. He goes, Because I'm here to fix the problem, to make sure that you can get back and the deal can get done. And by the time I left Chicago, fixed the problem, and flew back, I got this phone call from Vince. Ollie, frickin', you finally figured it out. You made me, Vince, look like unbelievable. But these guys loved it. You're one of them now. Like, it reverberated, like this guy came out here and fixed it on the same day, and they embraced me. I became part of the team. And to this day, there's over 600 investment bankers that get together for an annual, get together at the University Club or the Bryant that Vince actually hosts. And we just shoot the breeze. Like, everybody's off different firms. We're friends.
600 really, people in a room. Just
well, there's a network over 600 that is my core group. But on any given event, there's 200 people there that show up.
Are there talks? Are there what is it? What kind of?
It's like what you're up to as a family. DLJ was such a unique culture, and you can't teach that. Like, it was customer and your colleague first mentality, and that defining moment, because I sacrificed. I did the extreme. Like, I wasn't this department where, when you think about corporations, right, where you've got the, central department of IT and this department, and they've taken attitude, they're just needy people. I treated them as if, hey, they got to get their job done. I'm in the service business, right? And that they're in the service. Bankers put ideas on paper for people to make financial decisions about. Joe Roby at the top would ream investment bankers for not getting back to their clients on the same day. It's all about the touch points. It never left me. And I think that was part of my success in my private practice, is delivering something that they're not going to get from somewhere else. Again, look, everybody's got businesses out there, right? What sets yourself different from the others? It's how your delivery is. I live by the mantra. Customer service is not a department. It's what you deliver. When you deliver that experience, deliver them the why. They buy the why, right? That passion in what I'm doing today pulls through when I'm able to, show the breakthrough. Because when I think about cyber and I think about the C-suite, they always ask this question in the boardroom: what are we spending all this money for? Why are we doing this, right? I'm getting to the why we're doing it, right? I've got some dashboards and some examples, $400, $500, $600 million of data risk. Records that are in organizations with date of birth records, healthcare records. And I've got CEOs come to meetings going, wait a minute. They lean forward and go, what are you showing me? Because they see numbers, right? They attract it. So cracking that code and keeping the conversation that it's not about a firewall, not about building higher methods and difficult methods for data to be exfiltrated in and out. It's beyond the tech. It's getting into a language, getting into their heads that this is the way of doing business. We can make it a safer environment, both employees and for companies. And it's exciting.
Yeah. I'm in the cybersecurity space too.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing because you're, big or all of your revenues are coming from being a services business, that you haven't needed to take investment money. Is that true?
Starting to think about what that might look like.
Because you need to expand?
Well, the conversations are revolving where the parent company is the Actifile company. There might be something there where we can lever each other. We've had discussions, but OPM, other people's money. I've done that once in my career. You've got to find the mix and the right people. I'm not there yet. I'm still on the mission of education and getting more pull through on our offerings of CISO offerings. So I'm still I think months away from that. But again, I've thought about it. I really thought about if somebody just had if I thought about the money that if it dropped on my table, what would I do with it? Sources and uses. It's all about the marketing and education on this. I call the concept of ROM, return on mitigation.
Mm-hmm.
And that will pull through different things for different people. Some will need SOC services. Some will need written information security program things. Some will definitely, I think they'll all require, the tool to be in there, monitoring data. And when I say data, it's the unstructured data that bites all of these organizations. It is the PowerPoint, the Word, the Excel. It's the data that people mine that are doing calculations, that's the data that when the threat actors get their hooks into it, it's the treasure trove, right? They've hit the jackpot, so to speak. And it's that data that they go, where is that data? It's on your desktop. It's in this folder. It's that folder. It's literally everywhere. And it's happening. I'm seeing it. I'm seeing the excitement that we're generating because we're having lots of conversations both in the channel with providers as well as direct to consumer. I have a B2C play, both insurance, breach attorneys, educating them, accounting firms, right? Certain industry where I think fits really, really well with this type of technology.
Are you structured as a C Corp, so you could take investment easily in that structure?
I'm not. I'm an LLC.
You're an LLC. So if you wanted to take, to sell them equity, you change the structure.
I would. I could. Sure.
Yeah. So, it's, I find it to be a truism that everyone who's founded a company, running a startup, has a lot of grit. And I'll bet you've got a grit story. Where'd your grit come from?
I think it's got to be from my dad, right? He was a cabinet maker. He was a small, family guy, right? My father was a cabinet maker. He was a craftsman, and he taught me the trade.
Oh, really?
Grit. Yeah. I was supposed to inherit the business, kitchens, bathrooms, and making kitchen countertops and stuff of those nature, right? So I had to pivot. I was an athlete, through high school, state champion for my high school, state champion, basketball. Basketball, baseball, but basketball was my thing. And
are you tall?
I'm just about 6 feet. I have ups. I was pretty decent player.
Good.
I got drafted to a regional college, St. Vincent. I decided not to go, but I went to St. John's during the time of Billy Goodwin, Chris Mullen, those days. So I got I was in a red shirt, but I just would play pickup games with those guys. But to get back on the point here, so I'm learning the trade, and adversity hit, and I didn't know at the time, but I can go back at the story, which is the compounds of learning the trade. My skin was peeling. I was allergic to it, and long story short, you really can't wear gloves in this because you're working on furniture. You're a craftsperson, right? Building countertops. I had to make a decision. I had to go to college. I can't take the business. I can't do this. I was supposed to take the trade. I was learning it.
Was it one of the finishes that was the problem?
It was the glue.
Oh, the glue.
The glue. My father was a big laminate and Formica before Corian and granite came to the stage. This is couldn't have been more than 16 years old. We're talking, quite a while ago. So I ended up getting to St. John's University, finding this integrator called Land Systems. Land Systems was one of two integrators back in the early 80s. We've got a signal, balloons went up on the screen. Land land system, land service. I worked for land systems, and they said, go to the DLJ account. And you're an engineer. You go down and move desktops, set up desktops, install software, set up Novell servers, etc. And I'm down Wall Street, walking around and going, this doesn't look like, back then it was PLJ. I didn't hear the D. I'm saying to myself, man, this doesn't look like a radio station. This is a true story. Doesn't look like a radio station. I'm walking around going, what does an investment bank do? And I spent about a year down there as this bank went from 30 investment bankers and growing. They plucked me out, and I ended up working there full time. And as an engineer, grew into a director, then the CIO of the investment bank. So, it's the adversity of, having to change direction, not knowing if education was in the cards. I had to wing it, right? That was one piece, but that led the way where when I was in my private practice and you're on for a personal guarantee because you need to roll crack units in for your data center and build out this infrastructure for your cooling and plant, it's just like stress. It's like, where am I going to find the financing? And you got to put yourself personal guaranteed on notes and, pray to God. And again, I say to my wife, go for it. We had like 3 cabinets of users and I filled it up with 80 cabinets, right? I got lucky with great people around me. So you got to keep at it. And I think I've been really fortunate with good people, good partners. To this day, that's what keeps me going, those relationships.
Mm-hmm. Sounds like your wife is a tremendous supporter of even you taking risks.
Tremendous. Yeah. I would have, I don't think most, it's like, go get another, just go for it. Just, a lot of faith in spiritually, just go for it. It'll work out. Right. And if you work out hard enough, believe it, God has a path for each of us. Right. And you're going to figure it out, and it's no different. Like I try to tell people, like my kids are all, working for different people and, am I creating something potentially here that they can actually get involved with? I've thought about it, but I've let them spread their own wings and they're getting their own experiences now. But yeah, in the back of my mind, it's not like I'm just so set I've got to do it myself. I've told my current partners, hey, look, wherever this journey may take us collectively, and when I talk about my current journey with Actifile, we're doing some really creative stuff. And I go, nothing's off the table. Don't think that, I've got this, let's see where it takes us, right? Because collectively together, we're spreading the word on how you quantify risk. Actifile is a big piece of it. And we have hundreds of thousands of seats that are going in production with millions of seats line of sight. I mean, this is exciting.
Millions
is one of my
wow.
Millions. We have millions of seats of a pipeline opportunity. Yes,
that's really impressive.
We have some deals where 200,000-300,000 seats at a clip.
Yeah,
big organizations.
Yeah, that's amazing.
The organization. Yeah, it's just like, think about antivirus, right? This agent is that light that it needs to be on every device. We think it should be part of the operating system, right? And we think it will be. We think it has the legs to do that.
So if you were acquired, what kind of a company would acquire you?
I think eventually Actifile might get rolled up into like a Cisco or one of the larger organizations. I know at the board level, I really haven't thought about what that looks like, but I know the next couple of years, it's about the market and the expansion of the market. The current president and go-to-market strategist is really focused on that channel play, and we're getting really good pull through.
And is that is that what you'd like the final outcome to be to get acquired?
I don't know.
I mean, I know it's a few years away.
I think it's a few years away. I think, could they go public? I don't know. I think when I think of the competitor products like a Varonis, Proofpoint, and some other in the data loss prevention space, where I know we leapfrog them, public I think is a distraction. PE could be an accelerant. So I know that we've got private equity behind the Actifile parent company today, and they're hitting all the numbers, right? We're collectively doing it. For me, I've got a couple of industries I want to own, especially breach attorneys and insurance underwriting. And the reason why I say industry, Actifile's not going to B2B; they're going to the channel. That's left up to me. I have full, unencumbered go run as fast as I can with their support, because as you know, mid-market's one thing, but when you start dealing with some enterprises, it could take a year to pull through, right?
And are they still based in Israel?
We have good roots here in the U.S. now too. We've got boots on the street now.
Mm-hmm.
It's expanding. Yeah.
Yeah, I've enjoyed every Israeli firm I've worked with. I've really enjoyed. They're hard charging. They can be tough, but they're always ultimately really good to work with.
This team of scientists, with the background of data encryption and the way they've approached this, it's not a surprise, right? When you think about like Cisco had a corner on video conferencing and a bunch of people left Cisco and created Zoom, right? This is kind of similar to that. Some of the team members have said, look, we just think we can build a better mousetrap, and they have. It requires no administrative overhead. It's all cloud and SaaS based. So they just have, when it comes to security, it's been a bedrock of really good scientists, technology.
Yeah. Well, some of the best cybersecurity work.
Checkpoint. So many people.
It's all,
it's on the team.
Yeah. Well, this has been great. I've learned a lot. I think our listeners are going to feel like they've learned a lot as well from you. So your nickname is Ollie.
Yeah. Oliverio was my last. Oliverio was my last name, and my former boss, who's a close friend, calls me Ollie.
Okay, well,
Ollie, you figured it out.
All right. So I didn't get that memo at the very beginning, but I'm going to say thank you, Ollie. This has been great. This will be an episode that I think people will really enjoy.
Terrific. I appreciate the invite and doing this. Thank you.
And that's going to be a wrap for today. Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode of Adventures on the Can Do. Please share and like us on your social media channels. This is Jothy Rosenberg, and I'll be back with another episode every Wednesday morning at 9 a.m. Eastern Time. Don't forget to check out the show notes for additional resources and links. Hasta la vista.